Councillors. Thank you, staff. Thank you, CEO. For thousands of years, Aboriginal people have walked this land on their own country as custodians of Earth Mother. Their unbroken relationship with the land and the sea was and remains to be the centre of their lives. We acknowledge the Gunditjmara people who, of the past, the present and the future. And with gratitude and respect, we recognise their continued relationship, custodianship and their bond to this land and sea throughout the ages. To those present in the gallery today, by attending the public meeting of Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Council meetings may be live streamed and the Chief Executive Officer will enable a copy of the recording to the public. Councillors, item 4 is receipt of apologies. We have Councillor Dwayne Angelino as an apology this evening. Councillors, we'll move on to item number 5.1, the confirmation of minutes. Councillor Robert McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that the minutes of the statutory meeting held on Wednesday, the 20th of November 2024 as circulated be confirmed, and that the minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday, 26 November 2024 as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Jowett. Any comments, Councillor McDonald? Straightforward?
No, thank you. Straightforward.
The recommendation is being moved by Councillor McDonald and second by Councillor Jowett. Those in favour? Carried. We'll move on to 5.2, which is the record of the council briefings. There's a recommendation there on page 4. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation that council receives the record of councillor briefings held on the 26th of November 2024 and the 3rd of December 2024.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Noski. No comments?
Yeah, comment.
Councillor Carr.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, there was one extra briefing on the 22nd of the 11th 24 that'll be held over to the January meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Recommendation has been moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? Carried. Item number 6, declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to be noted this evening? There are none. Thank you. The number 7, councillors' activity reports will commence at the January council meeting, which will cover the period from the statutory meeting until the 31st of December 2024. Number 8, the notices of motion. 8.1. Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move 1, the council requests a report on the steps required to progress a council and traditional owners working group before the 25th of February 2025.
Thank you. Councillor Noski.
Second.
Happy to second. Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. This motion is calling for a report. It's an important area that needs genuine focus. The intent of the working group, councillors, is to form a group of stakeholders that can provide strategic direction in this space.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Anybody wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor Noski, did you wish to make comment?
I don't think, in the absence of anyone speaking against, I don't think there's any need to.
Thank you. You happy, Councillor Carr? I'll put the motion then, which is as tabled on page 6, moved by Councillor Carr and second by Councillor Noski. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 8.2, which is the second notice of motion as tabled. Councillor Carr.
One sec. Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the motion that council requests reports on establishing the following working groups on or before the 25th of March 2025. A, Castellan Sale Yards. B, Arts and Culture. C, Tourism and Economic Development. And D, Buildings.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Noski. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, then again, just calling for a report. The intent of these working groups would be to represent the interests of the community and provide strategic direction in these areas.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Is anyone wishing to speak against the motion? Councillor Norsky, did you want?
No, in the absence of anyone speaking against, I don't see the need to add to what Councillor Carr has said.
Thank you, Councillor Norsky. The motion's been moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Norsky as tabled on page 7. Those in favour? Carried. Right, so move on to management reports. 9.1 there, it's leave of absence register.
Like me to do? Thank you, Madam
Councillor
Mayor.
McDonald.
I'll move the recommendation that Council approves the leave of absence request from Councillor Angelino for the 7th of December Council meeting.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Norsky.
Yep, the 17th.
Did you want to speak to that?
No.
No. You're seconding it? Right, it's been moved by Councillor McDonald and by Councillor Norsky. Carried. Councillors, we'll move on to 9.2, which is the councillor and staff interaction policy. The recommendation there on page 10. Is somebody prepared to move that, please? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that Council adopts the revised councillor and staff interaction policy.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The policy has been developed in consultation during the monitor's time here as well, and it appears that it's a fairly straightforward on the communication levels between staff and councillors, and I'm sure we're all respectful of adhering to that policy.
Thank you. Councillor Jarrett, did you have any comments?
I think Councillor McDonald covered it quite nicely.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak against the policy? No. I mean, it is a requirement, councillors, of the Local Government Act of 2020 that council certainly does develop a policy, so we're just making sure that we fulfil our requirements. Thank you, councillors. The recommendation as tabled was moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Jarrett. Those in favour? Carried. We'll move on to Councillors' acceptable device use policy. Recommendation there on page 12. Somebody prepared to move that? Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd move the recommendation that Council adopts the councillor acceptable device use policy.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor McDonald. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, councillors, we get provided with IT to do our roles, and this policy just puts the framework around how we are to use that.
I think like a good policy, isn't it?
Quite procedural, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor McDonald, you're right.
Nothing further,
Yeah,
Madam.
that's fine. The recommendation as tabled on page 12 is moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. We move on to 9.4, which is the Portland Foreshore Multi-Purpose Project. Mr Moyne, would you like to introduce this item for us, please?
I can, yes. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll present Council with this report regarding the Portland Foreshore Multi-Purpose Project. The report presents Council with two options for consideration, being the refurbishment of existing buildings or the overall termination of the project involving the return of remaining project funding back to the state government. Based on the options analysis undertaken and in consultation with Regional Development Victoria, it's recommended that Council proceed with the refurbishment option and negotiate a funding agreement variation and extension with RDV. This has been a clear direction from the Victorian Government regarding the options moving forward with the project. The refurbishment option provides a deliverable outcome and opportunity for Council to renew these facilities for use by clubs and community and retain the existing funding whilst extending the useful life of each building, which presents overall benefits to Council, stakeholders and community. A refurbishment assessment will be undertaken should the recommendation be adopted tonight, and recent consultation has also been undertaken with user groups and clubs who use the facilities, who are supportive at the moment, with further consultation planned in early 2025. The recommendations provided for you.
Thank you, Mr Wine. Councillor, questions? Councillor Noski?
I was actually going to move the recommendation.
Councillor Carr, have you got a question?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
In terms of the recommendation to refurbish the buildings, are you able to explain what that entails? The question is, can we upgrade the outside facades using this money?
Mr
Thank
Wine.
you. Through you, Madam Mayor. We don't have a formal position on that at the moment, Councillor Carr, and we'll need to work through that with DECA regarding Marine and Coastal Act implications. As outlined within the report, the focus of officers and working with RDV is to work within the parameters of the Marine and Coastal Act itself. There is potential for some external changes to be undertaken, but we'll work through that further as part of the refurbishment assessment.
Thank you, Mr Wine. Councillor Carr.
Is there an intent that after the refurbishment's done that we could provide longer lease arrangements to the existing tenants?
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Carr, for the question. Yes, certainly moving forward, we'd look to secure long-term lease arrangements for the land itself, for the yacht club, and then work through with user groups regarding the use of the angling club building, which is used by the sports fishing club at the moment, and also look at other multi-purpose outcomes too.
Thank you, Mr Wine. Any further questions, councillors? There's a recommendation on page 14. Councillor Noski.
I'd like to move the recommendation, Madam Mayor, that Council 1 resolves to proceed with building refurbishment of the buildings currently in use by the Portland Yacht Club and the Portland Game Fishing Sports Fishing,
yes.
as part of the Portland Foreshore Multi-Purpose Facility Project. 2, that we authorise the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate a funding agreement variation and extensions with Regional Development Victoria. And 3, that we revoke recommendation 2-5 from the July 2024 Council meeting seeking alternative designs and further funding.
Thank you, Councillor Noski. A seconder, Councillor Carr.
Happy to second.
Councillor Noski.
Yeah, if I could. In some ways we may feel that we don't have much choice, but in fact, given the feedback that I've received in the community, I think this solution gives us the opportunity to meet most of the objectives of the original multi-purpose building project in a way that a significant part of the community would be quite comfortable with. And done properly, I think we'll finish up with 2 buildings that both look and have the capability of running forward for 50 years. The one big advantage for council, of course, is that the refurbished yacht club will continue to be maintained by the yacht club, and as opposed to if we built the multi-purpose building, the council would be responsible for maintaining that building from then on. So in many ways, I think this has the potential to meet all of the goals of that project and some advantages to council, while still providing significant function rooms on the foreshore for the community to use going forward.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to speak against the motion?
I'll speak.
No?
Can I speak at all?
You can speak for it.
Coming up.
Yes. You second it.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
It's a pleasure.
Look, firstly, my comments are not a reflection of the work done by council. To be advised that we can't build new buildings on the foreshore due to an inability to obtain approvals, but to then spend millions of dollars doing them up internally is interesting. The 23rd of July 2024, the amended motion put forward was defeated, and that was to get the new building built. 5 months later, the new building is off the table. Frustrating, and I'd probably speak for a different sector of the community, Madam Mayor. The intent was that the original intent removed 2 old end-of-life buildings replaced them with a new two-storey one that met the needs of the primary stakeholders, added commercial space to the foreshore, and provided a multi-user facility for our community that would meet the needs for the next 50 years was not achieved. So, not arguing about where they needed to be positioned, it's about new infrastructure that met the needs of the primary stakeholders in the community. This opportunity, I don't believe, is going to come around again. Hence, there's no point handing the money back. We'll do them up, we'll renovate them the best we can so that they can continue to meet the needs of the primary stakeholders, and hopefully they would be booked by the community. So, and then I really hope that we can reinstate the leases, long-term leases, back to the primary stakeholders so that they can look after and manage and maintain these facilities.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Are there any other comments? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to just make the comment that it has been a very protracted project in the eyes of the community and some of us involved, with various levels of angst from the community and stakeholders. The Marine and Coastal Act, which limits the locations, and as Councillor Carr said, in terms of building new buildings in certain locations. During this process, I would just like to acknowledge the patience that RDB has shown and the consultation that they have come back to us with, and I do believe that the majority of the community are going to be very happy with this result. I certainly know that the Yacht Club were fairly anxious about losing a lot of their floor space, and that's clearly been resolved for them in this outcome. So I'm very happy to support this, and in terms of the visibility, it will also please a large section of the community in terms of keeping this facility at a one-storey building. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Comments?
Do I get to close?
You can close if you wish, Councillor.
I'd just like to say I'm glad Councillor Carr was speaking for the motion. I'd hate to have heard it if he was speaking against it.
He was speaking for it. It sort of fringed on maybe not.
But I think the points he made about, one, making sure that the refurbishment is as significant as possible, and two, making sure that we provide certainty to those user groups with sensible long-term leases are strong goals that, as councillors, we need to drive forward with. So all I can do is recommend the direction we're going, and let's get on with it and get on with the project. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Noski. Councillors, it's been the recommendation as stated on page 14 was moved by Councillor Noski and seconded by Councillor Carr. Those in favour? Carried. I'd just like to take a moment to thank the CEO and your staff for all the input into this project and all the comings and goings. It's been a very laboursome task. Thank you. Can you please pass that on to the staff? Councillors, there's no urgent business this evening. Question time. There is a question there that was taken on notice, and we do have some questions from community members which I will deal with now. The first question is about a breastfeeding facility in the Portland CBD. Lee Hilton of Portland has asked the following questions. We do not contain a safe and comfortable space within the CBD of Portland for breastfeeding parents. The town of Warrnambool has a wonderful facility that Portland could have in the near future. When do you think something as wonderful could be in place in our town of Portland? So thank you for your question, Lee. It was a pleasure to celebrate 50 years of service milestone to a group leader, Pixie Endicott, when the Australian Breastfeeding Association met up a few weeks ago for services to breastfeeding here in Portland. There is a list of breastfeeding welcome locations across the Shire on Council's website. There's a great many of these localities are in the Portland CBD. The list includes All Saints Catholic Church, Funky Hearts Play Centre, the Max Hotel, Intimate Apparel, 12-Fold Cafe, the Portland District Health and the Portland Library, together with the Portland Leisure and Aquatic Centre, the Port of Call, Barloo and Portland Active Health. Second question, will this council be providing a comfortable area for not just breastfeeding but for parents to change young children within the CBD? Currently, the one that is provided at the amenities block in Henty Street is not suitable or private or comfortable space for any of the parents and their children. Plans to upgrade the facility are in the future. My question is, when will this begin and what will be provided? At present, there is open and ongoing public consultation with regards to the city centre amenity blocks in Henty Street, and I would encourage you and anybody else that has an interest in this amenity building to please use the community, have your say. But informal assessments into the provision of breastfeeding specific designs at this location show that there are considerable health and safety matters that we would need to overcome before inclusion was considered. However, the current plans do include a proposed changing places facility for accessible use together with baby changing facilities. But as my previous response suggested, Council already provides clean and safe spaces for mothers and babies, included at the Portland Library and also at the Portland Aquatic and the Leisure and Aquatic Centre. The third question from Leah is, if we can have something like the facility that Warrnambool has, which is a safe and comfortable space for all parents, what can the council in the short term do to help in order to have something like this in town that is aimed for families to visit, live and grow? For the purpose of this response, I'm assuming your reference to the Warrnambool is referring to the Warrnambool Breastfeeding Centre. This is a not-for-profit community organisation and registered charity. It is not a council service. The opening and operating of a similar service such as this would be led by our community, and we'd welcome such an initiative here in Portland. But as my previous response has suggested, Council already provides a really clean and safe space at our library and also at the Portland Leisure and Aquatic Centre. Thank you for your questions. The second person is David Headlam from Lake Mundy. He's asked the following questions. Given that it is forecast that 5% of small businesses are likely to hit the wall in Victoria due to the economic environment and increased taxes created by the state government, will this council give an undertaking to its ratepayers to manage the annual budget in a responsible manner and keep rate increases at an absolute minimum? Thank you, David, for your questions. Council knows that people are struggling with the cost pressures, and unfortunately Council itself is not immune to those pressures either and has seen significant rises in costs across the last few years. Council is very confident of the balance that must be struck between ongoing provision of council service and continuing to operate within a rate cap environment. Council has commenced its budget preparations for the next budget in 2025-26, and consideration of the level of rates levied is a key component of any budget, together with the level of fees and charges. Council will again be seeking community feedback on where to allocate expenditure of services and projects. This feedback will assist in Council's preparation of the annual budget, reflective of the community's expectation. Importantly, for the community, excuse me, More generally, if you are struggling to pay your rates, please reach out to Council to discuss the payment options that are available as part of Council's financial hardship policy. The second question, in the state of Victoria, it has been stated that up to 6,000 places, streets and other names will be changed. What part and say does this council have in this proposal? What opportunity do ratepayers have to have their input into this proposal? David, council is a naming authority and as such can name, rename and dual name locations. However, the process is guided by the state naming rules and other statutory requirements around naming. Council has not been approached by the state of Victoria to rename any place or street. Council will consider such a request should it arise, and in the interim will continue to operate in accordance with the requirements of the Geographical Name Places Guidelines. The third question from David, are these proposed name changes a wise choice in this economic climate? And the cost to the Shire and the state must be enormous. Does Council have a budget figured for this? As no request to change names has been received from the state of Victoria at this time, at the time of this response, no budget allocation for any future works has been allocated as it's not required. Just a reminder, any questions to Council received by midnight, midday, the day before the Council meeting. Thank you, Councillors. I'll just go back to my agenda. Councillors, number 12, we have a recommendation there to close the section to the public to consider a couple of contracts. Do we have a mover, please? Councillor Cole.
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Noski. You heard it's been moved by Councillor Khan, second by Councillor Noski to close the meeting to the public to consider a couple of contracts. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your attendance.